Wow. Once upon a time, there was a podcast featuring upwards of 8 people, sometimes way less, usually way less, usually not with me. But did that look like a scroll? Would that look like a scroll to anybody? I have no idea. Anyway, look, my name is Zach Wiseman, and I'm on this show sometimes, and it's called The Real Boys. And what it is, it's a collective of dudes who were into movies. Some are good, most are not that great, but sometimes we talk about my movies, or Dylan's movies, or Michael Colby's movies, or some of Phil Better's movies. Usually his movies are pretty good. Justin Wallace, I think that I'm not even sure if he's seen his own movies or not, but he picks some pretty good movies as far as what IMDb says. But anyway, this is a show where we just kind of make fun of people's movies and talk about them and break them down, because why not? Everybody else in the world has a podcast or a YouTube channel where they talk about things such as Star Wars. But I brought my council with me today, and the people that we have on the council to talk about Jedi whatnots. First and probably foremost, the man that keeps me together. He is the Elmer to glue. No, not the glue. It was like an Elmer Bugs Bunny thing. There's probably a joke in there somewhere. Anyway, Dylan Terry, I know you're here somewhere, right? Oh, yeah. Hello, friend. How are you?
Hello, Zach. I was surprised you didn't do the R2D2 C3PO analogy, but that's fine.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I will always be the glue to your Elmer. That's fine.
Thank you. That's like, I was about to go like the Elmer to my horse hooves, but then I was like, I don't know if that probably, because I would grind one of us up, and honestly, like you grind more than I grind. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Star Wars, right?
Yes, I know.
1977.
Is it 77? Damn. All right,
come on, dude. Get out of here.
I don't know. I labeled it as 75 when I made this episode because that's what Wikipedia told me.
Well, you're not telling the truth about this. Okay. You did not see that on Wikipedia. 1977, I believe it was May 25th of 1977 is when it came out. The movie known as A Star War. Really?
Yeah.
One of the reasons Anyang wasn't seen for quite a while in Arrested Development because he went to see A Star War for $20.
$5.
Anyway, so Star Wars. What was your first? Okay, obviously, like, this isn't something that somebody watched for this show, especially looking at this panel of white people. We've all seen Star Wars. Wait, is Phil white? I've actually never asked him that, and I probably should have. Yeah, is that the same thing as white?
I don't know.
I guess so. It's some kind of like super Western European look.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, this isn't a movie that you watched for this, correct? Like you've seen Star Wars: A New Hope before.
Yeah, and when you study writing, Star Wars is always the thing that you study when it comes to story structure, because it is the hero's journey in its almost purest form, and it's great. And
yeah,
I hadn't watched this one in a long time, and I was like, all right, cool. That score starts up. Like I admittedly on a bunch of our shows, I kind of shit talk Star Wars for what it's become.
Mm-hmm.
But go back to this. The score starts up. The scroll starts up, and I'm in.
Yeah.
The score like kicks up for any action scene, and I'm just like, ooh, all right, John Williams, you got me.
Like immediately, it's like, boom, we're in. Like that's how it goes. So fan, right? Star Wars fan. Yeah. I've seen a Star Wars with you before, so I know you're a fan. Let's talk to some other possible Star Wars fans. We have Mr. What is that? Podcast Magal. That's Phil Better, I believe, is his his Canadian English name. I don't speak French. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
What's the hate? Why am I getting always the hate from you? I love you.
Yeah,
and I get hate.
Yo, I know you love me, but listen, here's the thing. Like Dylan's on the panel. I'm not mean to him. I haven't talked to him in weeks. Darth Colby's on the panel
in weeks, and you're coming out swinging it at my head.
Well, I haven't talked to you in weeks, but we're also not friends. You know, we're just like podcast. We're just podcast dudes. You don't respond. You don't respond to my text messages. You don't write back in the.
You don't even text me. Don't start this.
Then I guess that means the number you gave me is not accurate. But let's hop into this. A Star Wars, right? You're a Disney super fan back there. You stroke on the mouse every once in a while. I've seen you on some of your shows. So Star Wars, you're a fan, right?
Yeah, love it. My top movie, as everyone knows, pretty much if they've ever listened to any podcast that I've been on, is Return of the Jedi. I love the movie. This one, like I didn't see until after Return of the Jedi, but still, like Dylan said, that score, that opening scene, just that feeling of awesomeness that you get, and the experience you go on. It's so much fun.
Yeah, like in Jedi, that's awesome. I love Jedi. It's obviously in my top 5 favorite Star Wars movies. But anyway, like when being like a money guy, being a mogul, being a podcast guy. No, this is not a joke. I'm actually curious. Like, can you look at Star Wars now as like a movie anymore? Because it is a conglomerate. Like it is a franchise. Like, because it's not just movies, it's comics, it's even there's like a theme park ride that it's technically canon to Star Wars lore. And when it comes to lore, yeah, this movie has a ton of it. There are billions of years of lore, which is the most, I think, of anything. But this thing now, it has like a financial value to it. It is a money, like, just mover. So you can still like separate it from from like a business to a movie.
Can we just point out here, 90% of my life so far, I was a fanboy.
Yeah.
It's only in the last like 2 years that I've become a corporate whore.
Well, I guess
I like money. So I am able to separate shit because I remember what it's like being a fanboy without money. Right. And now having money so that I can enjoy my fandom by traveling and buying the things that I want to buy.
Yeah.
So yes, corporate sex. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if a sex worker has sex for money, you're a corporate sex worker. You're having sex with corporations, or
yes, they pay me.
No,
to do
I guess. I mean, now, not then. Obviously, Star Wars then was a movie. It was like a cinema.
It still
like
is.
Now,
you don't look.
Okay, anyway, we also have Darth Colby up on
the...
We'll get to that. It obviously sounds like you're going to talk for 3 minutes about nothing that I'll tune into one of your podcasts for later and catch up the highlights for. But anyway, we have another friend of cinema, I guess. Now, this is kind of a British film, so do you like this? Although there's not as much violence in it as most of your top 6, right?
Yeah. No, there's not much violence in this. The one lightsaber battle that we do get is one of the lamest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I went into this movie like, I'm always like, A New Hope, sort of not my favorite Star Wars movie. I like
not your
Empire
favorite
a lot better.
to rewatch, or just like
just it wasn't. But when I watched it today, I was sitting there watching it and I'm like, this is like the most complete movie that Star Wars has. This was before Lucas went, oh, I'm gonna do I'm going to do 7 more movies and we're going to make it like this and we're going to make a whole bunch of it not make any sense. That's my George Lucas impression.
Okay. I thought it was Yoda, but that's fine.
But yeah, this one's like a full movie. It tells a story from beginning to end. For being over 2 hours, it doesn't drag at all. There was a couple of useless shots like in the cantina, but other than that, it's a really good movie. Like, if you just take it for what it is, it's great. It's fun. It moves at a good clip. It tells a complete story. I really liked it this time.
Yeah. Now, you and I are, I think we're the same age, which means that Star Wars have hit us probably around the same time. Now, I have probably a longer history with Star Wars just because my dad drugged me to a theater when I was -1 years old. I saw Star Wars in the theater the first time when I was 3 months old. So I'm not sure if that's how you saw it.
No.
But my dad and I, he loves Star Wars, so it's all kind of always been around. But when you rewatch this movie, and I'm sure you've seen it maybe a dozen, I have no idea.
It's probably, this is probably about the dozen, maybe 15th time I've seen this.
Yeah. Now it's hard to watch this movie as its own thing, which we're having kind of a hard time throughout this entire process with watching these as current media or as something to like, because I know what happens before, I know what happens after. I hate a lot of it, I love a lot of it. So now rewatching this for this, what was like, how'd you separate things? How did you?
It was tough. Because there was a lot of times that I was like yelling at the TV, "Oh, Obi-Wan doesn't remember owning a droid, George?" Like, I was just yelling at George Lucas for absolutely fucking the history of this franchise with those horrible prequels. But like I said, when you take this as just a movie by itself, it's almost flawless as a tale, as a story.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we're gonna get into the movie now, I guess. So let's bring up everybody who's all backstage. Whoever, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, good. Phil's still here. I wanted to apologize to Phil. Listen, I haven't been
part of the episode.
I haven't been on a show in about like 2 or 3 weeks, and I took an energy drink. I had a nap today, and I'm pretty feisty. And I'm sorry if you feel that I'm coming at you. Anyway, so yeah, we'll just leave it at that. You're fine, I like you, we're friends. So now I saw in the group chat that Colby was looking for the unedited edition, the pre-corrupted edition. Is that what he said? Or your version was corrupted?
Specialized edition. Yeah, I have the 3 of them, but when I put the disc in today, it was like data corrupted, and so I checked the other ones, and the other ones work, but this one, I had to watch the one on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Now, did we all rewatch this for this show? Did we, or is it just something
actually?
So
I rewatched it like 2 or 3 months ago. My brother and I, whenever he comes over, we choose a film franchise, and he stays over. And each night we watch, like, if it's like Star Wars, we watched all 9 movies. So I watched it a couple of months ago.
Do that?
No,
because
do the same thing.
as a fan of Star Wars, I don't mind other people's opinions on whether or not the prequels are good or bad. I look at it as, this is a story that's of a family. Like, this is a family story. So each part is a different story being told by different views that are been influenced by different periods of the artist's life. It's like looking at works of art from Van Gogh or Michelangelo. It's the same thing. That's how I look at it. It is. How is it not? Mike, tell me.
Those prequels as movies are bad. As Star Wars movies, they completely ruin. Yeah. Like I said.
Well, okay, so I don't know about complete ruin, but I will agree that we're not going to talk about these prequels for very much longer.
No.
But I will say that the prequels did a weird thing where they are for fans of Star Wars only, and they are parts of books. Because if you look at The Phantom Menace and you say, who's the star of that movie? There's no star of that movie. That movie's about like 8 different people that are doing things, and none of which really matter. But it is a book, but it's not a book that starts anywhere. It's a book that you just kind of pick up, and somebody ripped off the first couple chapters, and you're like, oh, okay. Because say you didn't,
it's a bridge.
Say you don't know Star Wars and you start at episode 1, and the very first thing it says is there are 2 Jedi Knights, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck these things are.
Just like most books, you start like that. There are books that I've read that don't have an actual start because it's fun that way, because you get to learn as you're coming into this story about this city that's been created, this world that's been created.
Well, kind of, except you're not. You're learning about things that you kind of already know about, and you're learning about a city that you already know about, but you're learning about new things that are kind of going to get erased later. But anyway, let's not talk about the prequel midichlorians. They're almost being erased. It's okay.
That was the other thing that I was yelling at George Lucas about.
I don't care about midichlorians.
Yeah, but my question was going to be, what is the definitive edition of A New Hope that
it's whatever version you want to watch. That's it. There's no definitive version.
I meant for you as Phil Better. Like, which one do you grab when you want to rewatch it?
Whichever one I feel like watching at the time. I look, I'm a Star Wars fan, meaning I love the movies regardless of all their flaws. I don't give a fuck what other people think. I love these movies for it is. So I don't care if I'm watching, as Michael Colby says, the corrupted version that's on Disney Plus, or I'm watching the released version on VHS on my parents' place. Yeah, I don't care.
I understand what you're saying, but because there are so many different versions of this film, there are at least 5 different versions of this film. I own probably 8 of those 5 versions. Now I grab a certain one, or I click on a certain one when I want to rewatch it. And I think that you feel attacked, and I'm not attacking you. I'm not attacking any of your opinions. I love this movie. I love Jedi. I love Empire Strikes Back.
The reason why is because for me, if I'm wanting to watch a film, I don't care what version it is, because I'm going to enjoy the film. I put movies on to enjoy. So whatever is the easiest for me to put on, wherever I am in the mood for that movie.
Awesome. That's fair. And I'm sorry that I did not accept your answer right away. But Dylan, do you happen to have a preferred version?
I generally watch whatever's available easiest, which is usually, in this case, Disney Plus or whatever was on a streaming service. I have the DVD somewhere in my DVD booklet. The only change, because it has a history of being re-edited as George Lucas kind of did his thing, the only change that I actually care about is Han shooting first. Because, and it's not necessarily, it's part of the definition of his character that he shoots Greedo mid-sentence without giving him a chance to defend himself. It's a great character-defining moment. It highlights the change he goes through in the story by the end of the movie, where he's become a little less selfish.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of changes.
And because the digital lean they put is so off-putting,
it looks so stupid.
Yeah,
when he dodges that bullet, it looks so bad. It's like somebody took a cardboard cutout of Han Solo and tilted it. It fucking sucks. I hate it.
I pretty much grew up with the versions that are widely available now, with all the digitally edited banthas, I think, the big ones that throw the Jawas around. All the digitally added stuff is stuff that I remember watching is from my childhood. So I don't particularly care about that, but I think the story decision to have Han shoot first is an important thing that should have stayed in.
Yeah, completely agree.
As opposed to Return of the Jedi with Jedi Rock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Jedi Rocks,
I agree.
The music,
I hate
that
Jedi
is not
Rock.
a dig. That is not a dig at Return of the Jedi.
No,
it is a dig at the worst thing to be put into Star Wars.
That is because it doesn't do anything. Like, there's no point to it. It's just kind of a flare for no reason. I agree.
That's my problem with all of this extra shit that they added in. It doesn't add anything. It's just like a bunch of visual gags for no reason. Like when the Jawas get bucked off of that, whatever that thing is, when they're going into the cantina and they're like swinging around, and it adds nothing to the movie. It looks terrible.
Yeah, but I will disagree to some extent. Now, there is the concept that George Lucas had his original vision, which he could not pull off because of money originally, because of technology. So when he was asked, like, hey, is there things, he originally set these out to be kind of children-ish, pulpy things, which I am a mega fan. And Dylan will tell you for a fact, I am a Star Wars fan. I will fight for almost every single Star Wars except for Rise of Skywalker and maybe Attack of the Clones, but I'll fight for the majority of them. And I love them all because I'm a fan of lore. I'm a fan of rules. And the thing is, like, that's what Star Wars is. Star Wars is the first real universe that I can remember where it's like, oh, from that planet and that dude, from that guy and this thing from that. So but there were a couple changes, and that's what I was going to get into, because when I was writing a couple things to talk about when, knowing this movie was coming up, it was like, well, what version do you talk about? Or, what is it? Because, like, you can talk about the Star Wars saga, the family story of it, which is a beautiful story. You can talk about the extended lore. You could talk about how many times this movie was overtaken, or like, it just is what it is. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but this is the 5th most financially, making it profitable, the 5th most profitable franchise that is out there. Can any of you guys name the 4 higher? And I know Dylan's Googling crazy, but
can I already do it?
Harry Potter.
Incorrect.
Wow.
Pokemon is number 1. That's fair.
Yeah,
Number
yeah,
one.
yeah. I
Now,
thought we were going movie stuff.
sure.
Well, Pokemon does have multiple movies released in theater.
Infinite. Yeah, I agree. Now Pokemon is the number one most money making profitable franchise. Do you guys know there are three?
Power Rangers.
Nope.
Lord of the Rings.
Nope.
Wow.
Hello Kitty.
Hello Kitty is number 2, I think.
Yep.
Yep.
Surprised.
That's up there. And then you have
Gundam Wing?
Then you have a tie for number 3. You have and they're most of Disney projects, but you have Winnie the Pooh, and then you have Mickey Mouse and Friends as a concept. But just to think that. And now, yeah, granted, Hello Kitty probably not so much here as far as.
If you look at the two highest, it's in the Asian community, which has combined close to 2 billion people in the population, so it's understandable.
Hello Kitty and Pokemon, I totally get, but Winnie the Pooh,
I do.
Yeah,
it's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
it's been since the Second World War.
Yeah,
they tied to the Second World War, so that's how they do it.
It even predates, I think, the first. I'm not sure. It came out in 1924, so it is an old ass tale.
Oh, so yeah, First World War.
I guess it's almost in public domain now. But to think that this thing just churns money and just makes so much money that was just based off of what people would consider to be a space opera. And I was going through this. I'm like, what version do you know? And I'm a Star Wars mega nerd. And I'm like, what version do I watch for this? And I watched the VHS, the original VHS that came out for CBS Fox that was pre any added effects, because the one effect that makes me so angry that was added to Star Wars was when Han Solo's talking to Jabba and he walks around Jabba and I guess steps on Jabba's tail. Now, as a fucking gangster who you owe so much money to, who has Boba Fett in the background and Bosk and all the cool dudes, you're gonna step on fucking Jabba's tail. Now, I know that the original version was a man in a bear suit and he walked around him, but still, like, you had the balls to put in the scene that you're gonna step on a gangster's tail. I hate that so much.
You're dead before that even happens. If it was like, if you you bump into a Don or anything, you're dead. You're 6 feet deep. Like, and everybody's just pulled their gun and shot you.
And he's the Don of this whole planet.
It looks like absolute dog shit, and
bad.
Jabba is so small, it doesn't make any sense to put that in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of the additions are kind of pointless. Like the one that Dylan brought up, having like the idea to have Greedo shoot first was weird because you are changing someone's character, or at least kind of changing the story arc of something, because then it turns into Han being real clever and getting out of the way quickly, and then being reactionary, which obviously we needed a whole movie called Solo to tell us that he will in fact shoot first. But it's just odd that there are so many versions and people, and unfortunately, I think that I brought this subject up incorrectly. But I was just trying to say that it's interesting to me that people have their preferred version, or at least a timeline of when those versions hit them. So I saw this movie when it first came out immediately, and then I grew up watching it. And one of my first jobs at Blockbuster Video where I had to watch these, and this is pre-1999, so this is pre-prequels. Now, 1997, I believe, is when they re-released all these on THX, and they put it out in the cool VHS.
Gold,
there was a silver one, it was a gold one, was widescreen, one was pan and scan, which was a thing for some reason we did in the 90s. And I have both of. Yeah, I know. I have both those copies, and I watched those recently. And I'm like, man, it's just weird, like the cool little weird touches they put in. But now, how do you guys feel about an artist? Which George Lucas is an artist, whether you like his art or not. He's an artist, and he did put together before this American Graffiti, which is a really cool car chase movie, kind of. And then obviously there's the THX, which is a really interesting movie. And he is also a part of a lot of very interesting franchises. So he is an artist. Now, how do you guys feel about an artist taking his product back and kind of adding to it, which is what some painters do too? Some painters, will keep adding things to a canvas and keep adding things until they feel that it's appropriate. But now, Phil, being a Star Wars fan, how do you feel about someone who keeps adding things to a movie to change nostalgia, kind of?
I don't own it, so I can't say anything about it. Like, if I want, I have his original work. Like, luckily it's not a painting where he takes it back and I can never have that original work. The original work is still out there. It's still accessible through, and thanks to digitization, it's going to be there forever now.
Well,
so you can see those different versions.
But
George
Lucas
to Disney
not,
that Disney can't re-release the originals because he doesn't want it released, because there is some personal issues there, because some people believe it was his ex-wife who actually crafted the Star Wars, the original trilogy, to the success that it was, and him now, because they broke up and all the things there, he wanted to change it so that it wasn't really said to be her vision. It's now his vision. So if he chooses to change something on his work, it's allowed. Like painters, like you said, painters come back and they can redo their art, fix it up. But luckily for us, we have the previous versions to see and enjoy, so people can find it.
Now let's say that this movie won like an Oscar for Best Picture, right? Now, if you take that movie and 10, 15 years later, you change that movie, is it still an Oscar movie? Has it been altered at all? Like, okay,
it's still an Oscar movie. No. Then you're getting into that Theseus ship situation from WandaVision or whatever it's called. Like, you remove the rotting wood and add a new wood. Is it still the same ship situation?
Oh, that thing that John dies at the end did 10 years previous to WandaVision.
Yes.
Well,
okay.
I'm just interested because I know all of us here are film buffs. I know we're all fans of movies.
The original movie,
we're cinephiles, if you will.
Thank you for using my name. The original movie is still the Oscar-winning movie. Anything after that, if you change anything, now it's a new movie, so it's not. It can be from the Oscar-winning movie. You know, you can still put it on because the rules are still loose, because we can make up the rules. We can change the rules. It's our choice. The
problem I have with Phil saying that these are easily accessible, these unfucked around with versions are all but impossible to find. You have the original VHS copies and you have the illegally pirated unspecialized versions. Other than that, you cannot find these movies, and it's a crime, because
you would think that there would
around with these movies. And also, going by your painter thing, that's true. Painters change their shit all the time. As a visual artist, I can tell you, I change my shit all the time. But once you put that piece of art out to the public and that's what it is, you can't change it. It's
says who?
That now.
Says who? Tell me who says that.
The public.
Because
fuck the public. It's my art. I can do whatever I want.
Okay, if we're going with a painting,
if I sold the painting and someone else purchases it, fine, I can't touch it. But if I don't sell it, it's still mine. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
It sucks to do it that way, because now people like the art that you put out, and now you fucked around with it, and now it's not the thing that they like.
If you want me to never to fuck with my art, buy my art.
Yeah, well, we did. We bought.
You bought
billions of dollars worth of these Star Wars movies,
and you have it.
Still
you bought
them around.
But here's the thing: do you own the original print? No, you purchased a likeness, so he can do whatever he wants with the original. You don't own the original.
No, Phil. The original in 1989 was inducted into the Library of Congress for preservation, and that version that is in the Library of Congress is no longer available to the public in an easily accessible format. And it has become more. I think it's become more than just George.
So it's like a Van Gogh. So it's like a Van Gogh, if you're saying the original version of Star Wars: A New Hope with unfucked is like a Van Gogh now, and it's worth millions of dollars.
Sure.
So it's.
I mean, look, I
can see a reproduction of a Van Gogh on the internet.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to start like some kind of copyright infringement fight or anything. What my question is, like, can you guys think of any other auteur that has taken a film that has been out for a little bit or even at all and has adjusted it or added things to it to make it?
Because no director has had the creative control that he did on the Star Wars. There is no one out there that has released a film or a franchise of films and had that amount of creative control over it.
I have never heard someone fight so hard for these fucked up versions of these movies.
It's because, Michael, here's the thing. Each version of this series is for a different generation. The original trilogy is for our generation. We love this original trilogy. The next version is for the next generation. The next group
Nobody
coming
likes the fucked around
Who?
with versions more.
Really? 'Cause
Nobody.
I can find you people who do. Little kids may love it because that's the only version they know. They don't know about the unfucked versions. So they grow up loving these fucked up versions in your eyes. You're always just looking right now. You're not looking down the street. You're mad because George Lucas messed with your nostalgic of Star Wars. Instead of loving
That's
Star
not
Wars
true,
for what it
because
is.
I have very little nostalgia for most
And why-
things, but I it just makes me like. Then put out both of these versions. Let us have access to the versions that don't fucking suck.
The agreement, George Lucas, because it's his vision, it's his property, he is allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants. And if he chooses that the original version was not his true vision of it, and that the ones that you deem as fucked up versions are his true view of the movies, then that's all you get. He has the right as the artist, the creator, the owner and operator of this thing. And when he sells it, he can put in as the artist, the creator, the owner of the property, that the original trilogy will never be released because he doesn't want it to be. And you can't do anything about it.
No,
you can
I can't
be
do anything
angry
about
as
it.
much
And that's
as
why
you
I'm
want.
fucking mad about it.
Really? And how has that brought your life
because
any better?
If Chris Nolan were to take a movie like Inception or Tenet or whatever and decide that there should be something added to it, I think that people would be cool with it, which is very odd, right? Dylan, how do you feel about that?
Well, I haven't answered the actual question of an artist who changed something after the release.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really relevant anymore. We've moved past it.
What is it?
Brandon Sanderson changed one of the major plot points at the end of his second novel, Words of Radiance, to change aspects of a character death. But that's okay. We've moved on past that. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure he didn't cause as much controversy as apparently George Lucas did for the
but
series.
some people
Guys,
were upset.
I do need to leave though. Michael, it's always a pleasure as well to argue with you about stuff because we're always apparently on the other side of the spectrum, but we're more alike than you think.
I know.
Zach, it's
No,
good
that's the
seeing you
thing.
again.
Just like in Unbreakable, I'm
horseshoe
Mr.
theory.
Glass and you're Bruce Willis.
Thank you. I don't break
Anyway,
as easy. I love
Phil,
that.
Phil, before you go, where can people find any of your voices
The best place to find me is on Instagram at podcaster Phil Better. Right there, Instagram. You'll find me. You can follow me. I put things up to help you grow your podcast if you want to start a podcast and make yourself a little side income. Thank you for covering over Zach's face. It's really great because this is where the money is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody here, and I'll talk to you guys later. I gave my private the reels to in the group chat, so I'll let Dylan do that, and I'll see you all later.
Bye, Phil.
Oh, wow. I really upset Phil somehow. Is that how he is? I don't remember him being so feisty all the time.
We've had to fill the airspace with Michael and Phil just kind of nipping at each other.
Oh, okay. So
we may have filled too much airspace because we're halfway through the show and we have barely talked about this.
Yeah, I know. And that was really what I was trying to get to. Go ahead, Dylan.
No, Star Wars is such a huge thing. It's really hard to talk about the very first one in isolation.
Yeah, because like Phil was saying, like a lot of people grow up with their own versions of this. And, like my daughter, she was born in 99. And when the first movie I took her to was Phantom Menace because that was just released when she was born. So I took her to that when she was 3 months old. That way it could be
Before
the same
you
thing.
knew it sucked.
Well, at the time, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. At the time, I was super into it. I was like, "Oh my god, yes, new Star Wars!" And then by the third time I watched it, I'm like, "Okay, there's some weird stuff in here." But I will say, I left there the first time being like, "Oh, f yes, this is the coolest thing ever." Pod races, I'm so into it. Darth Maul's so badass, But yeah,
Darth Maul is pretty badass. I'll give you that.
Oh, Darth Maul is very, very, very
Qui-Gon's
badass.
my favorite Star Wars character.
I really wish, honestly, looking at the prequels, I think one quick change, if you would have taken Dooku away and put Darth Maul instead of Dooku as the concurrent bad guy, that makes so much more sense to me and would have kept such a better bad guy. I don't understand what the fuck Dooku was doing, what he wanted. I don't know if he was
and why was he an apprentice at 75 years old?
Yeah,
it's never too late to start.
But an apprentice to who? Because he wasn't Palpatine's original apprentice because Maul was, which means he was like, I guess, filling in. I have no idea. Anyway, all right.
Yeah,
So
I think he was the apprentice to Palpatine after Darth Maul, but it
Which-
seems weird because they're always like, "Oh, you're too old when you're 22 or whatever," but
yeah,
he's
Sith don't
72.
care. The Sith
Right.
don't care.
And like, if there's only the rule 2, you have to be eyeing, even if you have your number 2, you got to be eyeing somebody else because you're like, all right, just in case Maul goes down, I'm taking Gandalf over here. I guess I should have said Saruman, but whatever.
Yeah.
I know. I meant just an old man, but whatever. But yeah, this movie, it's hard to talk about this movie because like everyone has their version that they like, everyone has their one that they like, everyone has their definitive version. So I had a hard time really kind of like figuring out how to talk about this. And then apparently that led into Phil being super upset about I'm not real corporate freedom. But anyway, Dylan, you said that this movie was almost the definitive idea of the hero's journey, which is interesting because, if you do like Star Wars, you know that this thing is hardcore ripped off, almost, visually, almost verbatimly, whatever that word is, from a couple movies, from Kurosawa films, and something else. So how did this movie move into the lexicon as like the hero's journey? What did that?
So when you look at story structure and kind of like young outcast becomes a hero, gets a mentor, meets some helpers, faces trauma, and then through revelation transforms and returns changed. That goes way back all the way into classic mythology, but was codified by a guy named Joseph Campbell in I think it was called Hero with a Thousand Faces. Was like this essay he wrote that was became kind of the codifier for mythological structure of the hero's journey, which is what Star Wars is. You describe a young farm boy has his home life disrupted. He joins up with someone from outside of his existence, and through trials and tribulations returns to his old existence changed. It resonates with a lot of people because back in that time, it was more common to kind of like, when you hit the age where you leave your home, your world opens up and you experience greater things and fight things. And so what George Lucas did was take this framework and just plug it right into the old science fantasy tropes of like farm boy, magic sword, evil empire, he overthrows it. And through that circle, Luke Skywalker becomes kind of like the American kind of archetypal hero in fiction. Everybody compares themselves to Luke Skywalker. If you get the farm boy trope, it's generally tied back to Star Wars. The big one that I can think of is Aragon, follows specifically the Star Wars formula very, very closely. And it's used a lot. Star Wars is used a lot to introduce new writers into that idea of a hero leaving their hometown, saving the world, and returning. Despite the fact that it appears in Lord of the Rings does the exact same thing. And if you go and look at people who've been influenced by the Hero with a Thousand Faces, the list is effectively just kind of endless.
Yeah. Now, Colby, when you watch this, what was do you remember your first experience with Star Wars?
Yeah, it wasn't my family was not big movie media people. But I remember about 7 or 8 years old. It was just on TV on Thanksgiving. And I remember, starting it. It's Thanksgiving. So the adults were trying to get rid of the kids. So it's just like, here, watch this movie. And it was like, I was enthralled with this. Then we ended up, getting the VHS tape. So the first time I saw these movies in the theater, I mean, I would have been 77. I wasn't born. The next one was 80, and then 82. I would have been too young to remember them anyway. So the first time I saw them in the theater was when they re-released them in the 90s. That was 97 when those came out. So that was the first time I saw these in theaters. But we did go in and sit, for the 7 hours that it takes to watch these 3 movies. So yeah, I've been obsessed with them since I was a little kid.
Yeah. Now, you said earlier that you don't really have a lot of nostalgia for Star Wars, or
No, it just most things. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not one of those people who like looks back fondly on stuff. I actually look back negatively on most things.
Yeah.
You know, most of the stuff when we were growing up sucked. But
not cartoons.
no, especially cartoons, but
Nope.
we're not going to get into that now. Cartoons were just fucking commercials for toys. But anyway,
toys were cool too.
Yeah, the toys were awesome.
Yeah, and so were the cartoons. Anyway.
So like I look back on stuff and I'm like, whatever. And so for some reason, Star Wars has clung to me. And like I said, this movie in particular, like, as you know, I'm a big fan of movies with sort of downer endings. So I was always like, oh yeah, of course Empire is my favorite one. But like I said, when I watched this time, I was like, this is probably like as part of Star Wars. This is the only thing that you could watch as a movie by itself and get the entire thing. Like if this was the only Star Wars movie, it would still be great.
Yeah.
You know, the rest of it is, you know, it by that time you knew that this was going to be a thing, but this movie is a thing by itself, and it begins and it tells the story and it ends and it's satisfying the whole way through. I was very much a bigger fan of this movie when I watched it this time than you know, I had been previously, because I was always watching it as a part of the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, as a movie itself, just a standalone movie, I'll say that it's borderline perfect. Now, Empire, do I like watching it more? Slightly, but only the reasons that people like The Office. You already know these characters, so what you're getting is a lot of character development. You're getting the additional stuff. You know, this movie, as far as building a cake of a universe, of characters, of rule setting, of almost everything being brand new, although stolen, being brand new, this movie has it all. And you know, Dylan, I know you're a fan of the book Dune, and I know that it steals a good amount of stuff. Well, not some stuff from Dune. How do you like, are you more of a Dune fan than a Star Wars fan, or how do you view like the theft of that info?
About Dune, the most apt description of Dune I've heard is that it is Star Wars if Star Wars didn't give a shit about you, because it is obtuse and arcane and weird, and it gets progressively weirder. But I think I disagree with using the word steal. I think it lifts a lot of elements from Dune. It lifts, like, Tatooine is pretty clearly Arrakis from Dune. You have the galaxy spanning empire. You have this idea of like a kind of mystical order of maybe psychic sword wielders. There's a lot of aesthetics lifted from Dune that went into Star Wars, and people have been copying Dune since Dune was released. Personally, I think I like Dune a little more, if only because Dune was really not afraid to go really weird.
Yeah.
Star Wars, at least recently, rehashes a lot of its own ideas, and Dune was not afraid to do its own thing.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
when Star Wars did go weird and change a lot of stuff, people were like, "This isn't my Star Wars."
Dude, boys got so angry.
But we're not talking about that.
And then when the next one came out, this boy got very angry.
That was an interesting viewing experience.
Yeah. So this movie, okay. So if for some reason, if you're watching this and you don't know what Star Wars is about, I'm sorry for the first 45 minutes of a straight up jibber jabber.
Nobody doesn't know what Star Wars is.
That's true. But it is
becoming more common to run into people who have never seen Star Wars. I've run into more and more people just day to day, like younger, who have just never got into it. Now that Disney has it and tried to Marvelize it, it kind of went like that. It kind of dipped a little bit because everybody knows what it is now with the Mandalorian and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a fair amount of people who just weren't exposed to it at the right age and don't particularly care about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, working with the public and occasionally talking to certain people, you're like, there are people that don't know about Lord of the Rings. There are people that don't really know Marvel movies, don't follow MCU. And I think that they kind of lump Star Wars into that unless you kind of were hit by it, by at least the prequels. I think if the prequels are already out and you started getting into movies, you might not hop into Star Wars as it's already 6 films deep and it just feels like kind of a slog, especially when the majority of the reviews are the last one. So it is interesting. But so this movie, like I said, came out in 1977. It is considered an American epic space opera. Now, it is also a multimedia franchise created by George Lucas, and it quickly became a worldwide pop culture phenomenon. The franchise has been expanded in various films, other medias, including television series, video games, novels, comic books, theme park attractions, themed areas comprising of all-encompassing fictional universe. And even in 2020, like we started the conversation with, total value was estimated at $70 billion in U.S. currency, which is the 5th highest. And outside of, Hello Kitty, Pokemon, it's up there with Mickey Mouse as far as just money making and how it goes. But the thing is, this movie, it almost didn't really exist. It had a hard time kind of coming along. People got sick while making it. Even George Lucas, he didn't think this movie was going to succeed so much that during the premiere, he actually went on a vacation. I think he went to Hawaii on his vacation, and that's where he came up with the idea of Indiana Jones, because he knew that this concept was going to fail. So he was coming up with his next idea, which he gave to Spielberg because they were buddies and he was making infinite money. But
Spielberg
also
makes better movies anyway.
Sometimes he also makes worse movies.
No.
Yeah.
No, I just mean as a director, I like Steven Spielberg's movies better.
I don't know. I don't know if I can say that. I mean, now, granted, Lucas has made 7, 8 films, kind of, and they're almost all Star Wars. Like I know he did the first 3
of them are terrible Star Wars movies.
I'll say in totality, probably 2.25 of them are terrible.
2.5.
Yeah, there's some of part 1 that are pretty interesting, and there's literally 15 minutes of part 3 that are worthwhile.
You made a really good TV movie out of all 3 of those prequels.
Yeah, seriously. And the thing is, like now, even like they're putting out merchandise, well, not merchandise, but I guess they're putting out content currently that is making the prequels better, and they're putting out other cartoons that are making the sequels better. And it's interesting that they keep they're still kind of George Lucasing the ideas by changing things without actually changing things. Now, I will say,
that's all right. I don't have a problem with like the cartoons like filling out what's going on, because they're not fucking around with the actual movies.
Well, I mean, they kind of are if you think about it. Like Darth Maul, like, if all you watch those movies, you would think Darth Maul's dead, and then you'd be confused in Solo. Now, if you watch cartoons, you're like, wait, Darth Maul did not die, and he's actually on this crazy vendetta against, Kenobi for a while. And now, granted, the majority of that story doesn't alter the movies, except that he didn't die. And that was a lot of the crux of what happened in the first movie. But now, all right, so let's hop into this movie, because we have who knows how long. But this movie is so interesting.
Minutes.
Whatever. Now, this movie is very interesting because it throws you right into a battle, like immediately. You start this movie, you have no idea what's going on, and there's already a fight. Well, okay, so you get a crawl, which is interesting in itself. And I don't remember the first time you guys watched this movie, but I was pretty young, and and this crawl was crazy because this seemed like it was going to be a bad movie for some reason, or it was kind of the thing where you're like, wait, am I supposed to know more about this? Is there a movie before this? Now, Colby, you might get this, but did you ever watch Leonard Part 6?
Unfortunately, yes.
Did you ever wonder?
There was a time that I liked Leonard Part 6 because I was a little child, and I thought it was hilarious how he made vegans' heads explode by feeding them hot dogs.
Yeah, it was a very weird movie for about 2 years of my
It was
life,
a very
and then I'm
weird
like,
movie.
well, what's Leonard 1 through 5 about?
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how this movie was. But you know, it starts with the crawl, and the crawl is honestly, it is so beautifully like surmised. There's a full story in there. It's a period of galactic civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agent, Princess Leia races up home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. Now, immediately, as a nerd, you're like, I'm in.
Yep.
I want to watch all of that, but I'm also into whatever I'm getting into. Which now, and that turned the crawl into an event of itself. You know, when you watch like Empire, beautiful crawl, so perfectly put together. When you watch Jedi, excellent crawl. When you watch Phantom Menace, though, bad crawl. Not a good crawl.
Ooh,
So
trade
boring.
disputes.
Taxation federations. I don't know what's going on here. But, you know, immediately this movie just grabs you because it's so different than any other movie. Most movies would have like a boring narration or maybe some kind of script somewhere. But having this like just throw off into the distance, you're like, I get it, man. This is a fucking story that has been told for years and years and years. And I'm just so in. And even like, look.
And there's nothing better. Like you said boring narration, but this movie opens and it just, that first note of that John Williams score just punches you right in the face. And it's like, dun-dun! And it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, it grabs your attention, and you do not care about anything else in the world. You are just zapped into this world. And John Williams really at his absolute best. Jaws, great, sure. There's a lot of things John Williams has done that is gorgeous. Star Wars as the theme song, you know, even the Galactic Empire's theme song, Vader's theme song, like even like thinking about like the stupid little twinkles at the end when Luke's looking at the double suns, and you're like, God damn it, dude, John Williams is so amazing. And the thing is, like, the reason that the prequels are somewhat good is because John Williams is forcing those movies down your throat. And you're like, I get John Williams. Like, you want me to feel sad. I don't see it, but I feel it. And John Williams is on display there. And this is
Duel of the Fates is one of the best pieces of music ever written for a movie score in all time. Like, that piece is a hallmark of like American movie score.
Yeah, and even at that, you know, I was a kid. Well, at 99, I was 20, but whatever. But you know, when you fight somebody, you hit you just automatically hear Duel of the Fates, and you know, you think about classic sword fights. Duel of the Fates, you know, pops in your head. John Williams is so amazing at the score that as you're reading this text, and you're like, man, there's so much going on. And then you just get popped right into this weird story that we're supposed to know something about, but we don't care. Now, a bit of Galactic Civil War, rebel spies, like I said, stolen the plans. And we get the first glimpse of like the bad guys, right? A lot of fighting down a hallway, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then Leia sends off her schematics, and then you get these droids, you know, and you're like, hey, hello, James Pond, sir. How are you? So it is hard to like go back to what you guys were thinking, but Dylan, knowing the stories that you grew up reading, and I unfortunately probably some of them are Star Wars stories, but when you watch these two droids and you watch them struggle, and you realize that they have emotion and they have a conversation that seems real, you know. It's odd that this is how this movie decides really to get your audience going. It's like, I'm going to follow these droids who are kind of fighting, but I know they're best friends, and I'm into them. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to open up, but you start with the action scene. You start immediately, and you start with tiny little ship, big overhead ship, just like immediate great first shot.
Yeah.
You start with the Empire storming this ship and having no issues whatsoever. And you see the big black suited dude in the cape with the spiky armor, and you're like, okay, this is the bad guy. The droids, kind of wander a little bit, and then you meet Luke. Like it, I think it makes sense to set things up by the 3-minute mark. You know everything you need to know to get into the story.
Yeah,
that opening crawl is crafted to immediately get your feet into that.
I mean, the crawl is perfect, but even if you skip the crawl, you're automatically hopping into it. Leia's wearing white, Vader's wearing black. Something bad's going on, and they shoot this thing, and it's like, what is happening here? Now, the original opening scene, going back to Lucas's original vision, had kind of Luke watching this battle with his friends, and he's like looking up at the sky and he's seeing that fight, and his friends are like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm gonna be a pilot soon. And that was Luke's whole arc, was that he wanted to be a pilot for the Empire. He thought that hopping on the Empire was going to be his only way of getting off the sandy planet. Now, obviously, we know that that's how Solo is doing his thing. Also, concurrently, he's working at the Empire at the time, becoming a pilot. But it is interesting that the movie had to get edited a certain way because of how Lucas filmed things. And at the end of it, it is a piece of art. It's a gorgeously edited movie that I feel is paced so well. And then you watch some of these extra scenes and you're like, I mean, I'm glad they're not in this. It's so weird how almost his original vision, if it were to come out at when it did, I don't think it would have been as successful, unfortunately. I think it would have twisted people a bit, because the thing about this movie is it is action-packed. James says, Rogue One ending ruined Star Wars 97 because Darth Vader captured Leia's ship and the way he treated her doesn't make sense anymore.
I don't like Rogue One because
You're wrong.
don't think it. I see.
You're allowed
There's
to
a
dislike
good
it.
story there, but we have an ensemble cast that like just meet each other. I'm not going to get into why I don't like Rogue One. I think it needed more time. It should have been like a series or something. It's not a good movie.
You don't like a story where an ensemble cast meet each other to take on some kind of mission?
Yeah, because
such as
they're
an old man, a young farmer, a crazy pilot, a big hairy dog, a princess. That just doesn't appeal to you now.
There's too many people in Rogue One, and them being best friends right away doesn't make any sense. Again, we're not talking about Rogue One.
I think the point that he's trying to make is that when you take Rogue One into consideration, it's like an 8-hour time gap. And what Leia says to Vader is like, she's got some real, she is bold to lie to this dude's face. Like, this ship left their sight by eye 8 hours ago. And she's like, diplomatic mission. We weren't anywhere around there. And he's like, I'm going to torture you to find out the truth. And you're like, oh, okay. When you take it in totality, sure. But we're not talking about Rogue One.
Well, I still don't understand how Rogue One's ending could have altered or messed up the beginning of New Hope. I think it makes sense. Vader's looking for this thing. He doesn't really know exactly what they have. He knows they have something, and Vader does not lose, and that's it. So it would make sense that Vader followed them and tortured the shit out of people. That's what he'd do. That's what he'd be doing. Anyway, we hop over here and let's see, where were we? We have these droids that are kind of wandering around, and immediately they get captured by the Jawas. And I saw in our group chat that we are fans of the Jawas. And now the Jawas, they happen upon Owen Skywalker. What's his last name?
Lars.
Oh yeah, Owen and Brew. Now they happen upon them and they're like, yo, we just need some droids. And here we go. Here's all the droids we got. And the Jawas are like the coolest flea market known to man. And they bring this stuff to you, which I absolutely love. Now, the theories are that immediately they pick the red robot, right? And there are some people out there that think that red robot is Jedi sensitive. And he blew up on purpose so they'd pick R2.
I love it. That
Sure.
was a what if comic, wasn't it? Way back.
That might have been one of the what ifs, but if you watch The Mandalorian, they have definitely put in that red robot as tribute to that scene for that reason. But anyway, so the red robot breaks up, and Lars, like he's from Metallica. Owen, he's like, I hate everyone else's music. You can buy mine.
I can't believe you downloaded this movie off of Napster.
To that grandma.
Yeah.
I'm losing money.
Now, Luke, when we meet Luke, he's a real punk. Like, he is just an absolute punk. He's just a whiny
Luke
brat.
sucks.
And He's like, I just wanted to go get to
Toshi Station. Oh, Uncle Owen. I can't believe you're going to make me wash droids.
Yeah, which is great. Really spot on impression.
That's my impression of Luke Skywalker. I'm doing all sorts of impressions today.
Yeah.
No, you're doing
We'll
great.
get my Yoda later, but he's not in this movie.
Yeah, too bad. So now while Luke is cleaning the droids, he discovers a holographic recording of Leia, and he requested help from Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so this is where we get the ideas of, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is my only hope. And you're like, wow, I don't know what's going on. But Luke is so into this chick. Like, he's like, I'm going to leave my planet for this girl. And, when you watch this movie, you're like, they're going to be in love, right? They're going to be together forever. And I'm going to watch this when I'm 50 years old, and they're going to be a cute old couple.
I always knew that they were going to be brother and sister. I knew that from the beginning. I'm George Lucas.
Oh, I thought I was Kermit the Frog, and I was wondering how that got in there.
George Lucas and Kermit the Frog, basically the same.
Yeah,
they both have the bullfrog throat that inflates when they're aggressive.
Yeah, but it would make sense. Okay, look, if you don't know that you're brother and sister, and you're like, I'm attracted to her. Okay, sure, whatever. I guess. I don't see it, but whatever. Now Obi-Wan Kenobi, he sounds pretty dope. And Dylan, it was A New Hope your entry into Star Wars being what do you like, 18 or something? What are you, 19?
Something like that. Yeah, I'll take it. I do not remember the first time I watched Star Wars. I don't I don't remember the first time I watched Star Wars because I watched it when I was so young, and my parents met each other at a Star Wars viewing party. Like, it so it was on my TV in my household from as young as I can remember. I remember renting Return of the Jedi from the local library on VHS. Like, I specifically remember going to the library and renting those VHS tapes.
Yeah. You should return those.
Yeah, I should. Well, I mean, whatever.
You've moved away. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, they have to come get them.
Yeah. Come to me.
Now, when that library cop from Seinfeld
now, when
Mr.
you rewatch
Bookman.
these, because I think at times we all kind of do this thing. We're like, oh, let's just go do the marathon and let's just rewatch all of them. Now, do you start with New Hope or do you start with Phantom Menace?
I haven't done a Star Wars rewatch in a long time. Anymore, the ones that I rewatch are Rogue One, because I think it's the best one that Disney has released, and The Last Jedi, because I think it's the best of this new sequel trilogy.
Yeah. I'll agree. I'll agree to 80% of what you just said.
If I was going to do a marathon, I would probably start from Phantom Menace, just because if I'm gonna do a marathon, I'll do it for the story and not necessarily the real life chronological releases.
Yeah.
If I was introducing someone to Star Wars for the first time, I would start with A New Hope.
Yeah, I think you would have to, only because the pacing is so odd in the prequels, and it's just like like turn action, and then like, man, this dip is so weird, and then action, and then you're like, why is this lightsaber scene 45 minutes? I know what's about to happen,
and then that second one is 2 hours and 40 minutes long or whatever the fuck that thing is.
Dude, the second one, the second one, I really just loathe. It might be my least favorite thing ever.
It's by far my least favorite Star Wars thing ever, and that's including the Ewoks movies and the holiday specials.
Dude, I just watched those recently.
I'll watch the Ewoks things 5 times before I watch fucking Attack of the Clones again.
Yeah, and they make no sense whatsoever, the Ewoks movies. But yeah, I agree. Attack of Clones is just absolutely absurd. But anyway, I keep getting it off. And that's the thing about Star Wars, like you have like a Star Wars conversation, and you really can't have a one movie conversation. You have to have a universal conversation, and then like a history of your life conversation as well, because each of these movies at some point means something to you. The thing of, so Phantom Menace, that movie was when it came out, it was 1999. My partner, not my wife at the time, it was my partner. She was pregnant with my soon-to-be daughter, and I had purchased tickets to go see Meet Joe Black. I had bought maybe 10 different tickets to Meet Joe Black because I needed to see the Phantom Menace trailer. And Dylan can attest this. I watch things over and over and over again because I want to watch all of it. And I had to go and buy tickets to Meet Joe Black, which is the only way in the late 90s that you could rewatch something because there was no real internet to rewatch videos yet.
Isn't Meet Joe Black that? Oh no, I'm thinking of Mighty Joe Young. I was going to say that Charlize Theron big monkey movie.
No, Meet Joe Black is that gets possessed by death, and then he falls in love with Minnie Driver.
No, I think it's the girl from Mallrats. I think it's whatever her name, Brandy's Vennings, Brandy's Venning, whatever.
Margaret Thatcher.
No, come on.
Oh no, the worst actress in that movie.
No, the main girl.
Yeah, the worst one.
Oh, I don't know. She's in Basquiat. She's great. Anyway, so then I went to I had tickets to see Phantom Menace, and that was back in the time where you had to, if you wanted to be in the front row of the theater, you had to camp outside and you had to wait in a line to get let in. So I actually camped out for a week to see Phantom Menace, and I got on the front page of the newspaper in Delaware because I was there for so long. I was the second person in line. And then the day that I saw Phantom Menace, you know, it was so cool. It was great. And then I got out of the theater and I got back to work at Blockbuster Video, and they're like, hey, your dad called. And I'm like, what's going on? And apparently my grandfather had just passed when I was at the movie theater, and they were calling and calling and calling. And I was supposed to be at work, but I had changed my shift to make sure that I could go see Phantom Menace the very first time that it comes out. So and the thing is, like, Star Wars has always been around my life, and it's always been a part of things for me. You know, I have Star Wars tattoos. Me and my daughter have matching tattoos that, you know, for Father's Day, she wanted to get matched tattoos, and they're Star Wars tattoos. And it just means so much to me that it's more than just like a movie, because it is my life. You know, it is from the second I was born, there was Star Wars. And then when my daughter was born, there was Star Wars. My grandfather passed, there was Star Wars, you know. And even when I'm meeting new friends like Dylan, one of the first times we hung out was seeing Star Wars and fighting people over Star Wars. And, you know, it's so weird to speak on a movie that has inadvertently really sculpted my life. Like, this movie, it doesn't want to change me. It did. And it's hard to go back to this one tiny film and say, it's because of this film that I am Zach currently, you know, and it's so cool because it is so much bigger than just a movie. And it's hard to break it down in its pieces because it almost shouldn't work, because it is a weird mix of things that are Western and are, you know, samurai, and are weird 50s, you know, Flash Gordon-y stuff, and almost a radio drama that I'm looking at. And it's just so well done and so put together that it makes a lot of my life cool. You know, every Christmas I watch all the movies again. And when people are like, hey, what do you want to do? You know, when I met my partner, Suzanne, our very first date was around Star Wars. You know, we were eating hummus somewhere, and you know, I was like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm nervous, and you're cool. And she's like, oh, the new Star Wars came out. I'm like, dude, I've already seen it. And she's like, you know, I wanted to meet somebody who says, you know, I've seen Star Wars like 6 times already, but I haven't seen it with you yet. And I'm like, I swear to God, I was about to say the same thing, except I already seen it 11 times, but I haven't seen it once with you. So let's go see it 12 times. So a lot of my life is Star Wars, and it's weird because a lot of Star Wars is not very good, but I love all of it. It is. Yeah. And I almost didn't want to review this movie, and it was weird.
Well, yeah, we don't have to review the movie. But I have a much less epic tale of how ingrained Star Wars is in me. I told this story to Dylan backstage in one of the shows, but in Jack Billings Presents Me and My Neighbor Michael, we have a thing where we talk to ghosts through the car radio. And I was writing songs because everybody has their own radio station. So I'm writing songs, and one of the characters that's dead is Old Widow Welsh. She was like 130 when she died. So I wanted to write like an old style, like something that sounded old. And without even thinking about it, I'm like writing this song for the radio station behind her. and I'm like, oh wow, this sounds really cool. This sounds great. It sounds like something that would have been playing in the 30s. And I'm like, I listen to it, and it's this. And I'm like, it took me like 3 times of putting that character in the show before I'm like, oh fuck, I invented the cantina music.
Yep.
But that's how ingrained it is in me. I didn't think about it. It was just there. Like, Star Wars stuff is just there.
Yeah. But we probably should just get through the rest of this movie just because why not? We meet Obi-Wan because Luke has to go find out who this is. And well, I guess because like R2 is missing, right? So he goes to look for R2, and that's when he's attacked by Tusken Raiders, which is one of the weirdest scenes of Obi-Wan Kenobi making, I guess, what he thought was the Krayt Dragon sound, which is one of the things that has been changed like 4 or 5 times, like his sound. And if you just Google like Obi-Wan Kenobi scream, you'll see them all, and it's very, very weird. So he's rescued by Kenobi, who an acquaintance of Luke's, which is weird because he's like, old Ben Kenobi. I don't know why you call somebody old Ben when your name is Obi-Wan, but whatever. I guess maybe that's how he heard it.
I don't know why you keep Kenobi, which seems a lot more distinguished than Obi-Wan.
That's fair. Also, when they were hiding Luke and Leia, they put Leia, in a different planet with a senator, and changed her name to Organa. When they gave Luke away, they're like, sure, he's a star. He's a Skywalker. Put him in our house. I don't understand how, like,
his dad's brother.
Yeah, give him to his dad's bro. Anyway, so Obi-Wan, now he tells Luke of the days of the Jedi Knights and kind of about the fact that he knew his dad. And at the time, that's when we found out the Jedi Knights were just former peacekeepers of the Galactic Republic who drew mystical abilities from a metaphysical energy field known as the Force. But we are ultimately hunted to near extinction by the Empire, and Luke learns that his father fought alongside Obi-Wan as the Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars until Vader, Obi-Wan's former pupil, turned to the dark side of the Force and murdered him, and Obi-Wan gives Luke his father's old lightsaber, which is a signature weapon. Now, when I watched this the first time, I was like, oh my God, Clone Wars, Jedi Knights, peacekeepers, laser swords. I could not consume this fast enough. And I just wanted to know so much more. And it's such a cool, weird scene to just have, Alec Guinness, who is this great actor, really, who could give a shit about this movie whatsoever. And he's delivering these lines, and I believe him. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get you, man. I don't know why. You're like an old, wise dude. And it's funny knowing, like, behind the scenes, like Alec he's writing letters to his friends, like, this is an absolute piece of shit. I hate this film. I don't like George Lucas. This is going to go nowhere. I'm only doing this for money. And it's really cool. But yeah, so at this point in the movie, like, what are you guys thinking? Where are we going with this?
It's a great world building thing where you just drop capitalized words into random one-off lines, and then Star Wars managed to capitalize on it by being like, what can we do? Clone Wars. Cool. Clone Wars.
And that was too bad because what we got explained of it was way more interesting than what we saw.
Except for the superfluous, like the Clone Wars show ultimately turns out pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. The Clone Wars in the movies is not, because, dude, I do not want to see Yoda doing anything.
Those cartoon Yoda flips are.
I hated every second when Yoda's like, we gotta get to the hangar and fight Dooku. I'm like, what?
Oh no, Dylan's eyes fell out of his head because they were rolling back so hard.
I'm sorry, I've tried. I don't care about Star Wars TV.
That's true.
I just don't. I've tried. I like The Mandalorian. I don't care about Star Wars
great.
TV.
Yeah, that's fine. You'll get there. Don't worry.
I know.
I know. Okay, so the team is assembled, right? To some degree, we have Obi-Wan, who now gives Luke not only a purpose, a little bit of a story, and now a weapon, right? So R2, he plays Leia's full message, in which she begs Obi-Wan to take the Death Star plans to her home planet of Alderaan and give them to her father, a fellow veteran, for analysis. Although Luke he initially decides Obi-Wan's offer to accompany him to Alderaan and learn the way of the Force. He's left with no choice after discovering that the Imperial stormtroopers have killed his aunt and uncle and destroyed their farm in the search for the droids. Quick question, Dylan. How do you destroy a moisture farm?
You bomb it to hell, or run over it with any of your like big old 4-legged walkers, or bombard it from orbit. I don't know. You got a whole bunch of options.
This movie could almost be like it could almost be G-rated. There's not really anything bad that really goes on, but when you see these two burnt corpses, it's like, oh god, oh god.
I was watching on Disney Plus, and I was worried for a minute they were going to do some sort of cutaway or cover up or re-edit. I'm glad they didn't. You need that. You need that to highlight what Luke's going through. Yeah,
because that was his only real life was just there. Like he wanted to do things and he always kind of just reverted back to his shelter with his family. But this now he's like, I don't have anything else. These guys suck. I'm going to go do this. Damn it. I'm going to follow my dad's footsteps. So they travel to Cantina in Mos Eisley to search for transport. Luke and Obi-Wan, that's when they hire Han Solo, who's a smuggler with a price on his head due to the debt with a local mobster Jabba the Hutt. Pursued by stormtroopers, Obi-Wan, Luke, R2, C-3PO, they flee Tatooine with Han and his Wookiees, co-pilot Chewbacca on their mission on the Millennium Falcon. So Cantina, right? This is the first time I can remember in movies when you just see just that bar full of ruffians. Now, normally you see that in westerns where you get you walk in the doors. There's just a bunch of hoodlums and some are spitting into brass buckets. But you walk into the cantina and you see like a slug dude, and you see that weird guy behind the bar, and he's pouring drinks out of a robot. You see actual Satan. You see a werewolf. You see like so much.
Werewolf is my favorite.
Werewolf is my favorite, and I will say it's one of the cool things that J.J. Abrams did was he Han will always
shot first
100%. But throwing the werewolf in there. Now this is such a cool scene because once again you get more exposition than you really want. You get more story than you really want. They walk into here and the first thing the bartender says is, hey, no droids allowed. And you're like, what? Why are droids like, what are they doing? Like, I don't understand why there's so much hatred, which is weird because when you watch The Mandalorian, droids are running that bar, which is crazy. But anyway, so we get this scene. You get that cool scene with Tusk Man, the bat face, and you're like, he's like, my friend don't like you. I don't like you. And you're like, now granted, that scene now is overdone because Robot Chicken and whatever else is,
that Robot Chicken thing was great.
So great. So everything Robot Chicken does so great. But even not everything, I guess, but most things they do.
No.
Did anybody while I was gone? Did anybody say anything about how Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, oh, this is the most wretched hive of scum and villainy, and oh, this is a terrible place with all the worst people in the world, and then you go in there and it's like,
Obi-Wan just really hates jazz.
Yeah, that's true.
Jizz is the name of that music. It is called Jizz.
That's funny. He's like, oh god, this place is just absolute scum and villainy. They call it jazz, but honestly, they're terrible people. That is funny. But he's like, God damn, I need a pilot. So there's always some scumbags in there. Greedo shoots first, which is a defining moment of Han saying, I don't care what you think about McClunky. I think it's funny, and I don't, whatever. How do you feel about McClunky, Colby?
I actually don't know what you're talking about.
So now when Star Wars hit Disney Plus, there was a couple more additions that were made. One additions they made was they changed the sound of Obi-Wan's voice again with the crate dragon. One of the additions was they made sure that Han shot first. But one weird addition they had was they made a Greedo say the word McClunky. For no reason. It is added to the current movie, and there's people that know what that means, and because they can speak Huttese, I guess, which is what Greedo was speaking. But all of a sudden, the newest version, Greedo just says McClunky right before he gets shot, and it is one of the weirdest additions because you're like, I don't know why this is here, but whatever. Because that's not even like a Lucas ad. It's like. Let's see. Have you guys heard of
those? I have I have the 3 despecialized ones, but when I was watching this one, when I tried to watch it today, you must have came in late because when I watched it today, my disc was corrupted. So the other 2 work. This one didn't, and I was so bummed because I'm like, I don't think I have enough time to go and get all this stuff back up and running. So I'm just gonna have to watch I watched the regular special editions, like I said, in the theater when they came out. But other than that, I've watched the despecialized editions or the VHS originals until the last 2 times I've watched this, which were both on Disney Plus. So I didn't notice the McClunky because that was the version that was like the specialized version that I have watched since the theater.
just a weird edit that just popped up a couple years ago.
It's so dumb how they keep adding shit to it.
Yeah. All right. So we leave the Millennium Falcon after that one guy's like, and before the Falcon can reach Alderaan, Death Star Commander Grand Moff Tarkin destroys the planet in a show of force after interrogating Leia for the location of the Rebel Alliance's base. Upon arrival, the Falcon is captured by a Death Star's tractor beam, but the group manages to evade capture by hiding in the ship's smuggling compartments. So the scene where, they're like interrogating Leia and they're like, well, you better tell us what's up. And she's like, nah. And they're like, all right, here, watch this. And they just destroy her planet. Like, that's got to be just insane. You're like, dude, that's like everybody that I know. That's like 100% of my friends right there. That's
all of my stuff was there.
Yeah, that's where I kept my stuff. So yeah, they hide in the smuggling compartment, which is whatever. Obi-Wan he leaves to disable a tractor beam, and Luke persuades Han and Chewbacca to help him rescue Leia after discovering that she is scheduled to be executed. Why do you think they scheduled to execute her?
They're done with her.
Because the movie needed to happen. If they would have just killed her, then the rest of the movie wouldn't have happened.
The Empire's all about bureaucracy.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Right, we've done
paperwork.
Schedule her. Write the paperwork to get her executed. It's like, I mean, because Vader's on a leash, so he can't just.
Yeah,
he sort of does though.
Yeah, true.
With that guy in the meeting room, he does just sort of, but he does let him go when somebody tells him to. Before we get can I just say another thing that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're currently talking about? But when they go back to where the Jawas are. After all the Jawas have been slaughtered, and C-3PO is just holding the one, and he just tosses it onto the fire.
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
Legitimate belly laugh. I was cackling at that. I never noticed it before, but I was cackling when that happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, if this was in the special edition, you know what? Maybe I don't have a problem with the special edition because that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah. Him just dropping it like, oh shit, I'm late. I gotta go. All right. So Obi-Wan is doing his thing and he disables a tractor beam. And he sacrifices himself in a lightsaber duel against Vader, allowing the rest of the group to escape the Death Star with Leia. Using the tracking device, the Empire tracks the Falcon to the hidden rebel base on Yavin 4. Now, we know that Vader is supposed to be a badass, and I know there's a lot of different speculations of how this fight went down and why it shouldn't have been cooler or whatever, and there's even like edits where they make that fight scene a lot better, and I really think that I struggle with how that scene should play out, and I think that it's done correctly. What do you think? Right, like it had to be a slow burn fight. It couldn't have been a dramatic battle where Vader could have won. Vader could not have beat Obi-Wan. Right, like
I'm a strong advocate. I'm a strong advocate for the way the scene plays out in the film. I've seen there was a big YouTube video like a year or so ago that was like how it should have played out, and they're active and mobile, and it's a fight. They're going hard at each other. Yeah. And while it is clearly an old man and a dude in limiting prosthetic outfit, kind of just whacking each other with metal rods that are painted over in special effects, it making it flashy is unnecessary because it is supposed to be about the subtext in the fight rather than the actual flashy fight.
Yeah.
Which is, in these first 3 movies in the original trilogy, lightsabers only get ignited to fight, I think, like once per film.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan, Darth Vader versus Luke, and then Darth Vader versus Luke. Whereas in
except for training and stuff, but whatever, yeah.
Right. In the prequels, they are just spectacle.
Oh,
and
they're out.
In the Disney trilogy, they are a bit more better utilized.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Better utilized than the prequels. I think the most interesting take I've seen is that the lightsaber is not necessarily supposed to be the main goal of it. The fight of a lightsaber is supposed to be about what brought them to fight each other with weapons that will slice you in half with the slightest touch.
Yeah.
They're not simple, and they're not lightweight weapons. They're supposed to be used to put an end to something. And so having them just used willy-nilly is really, I don't know, it feels cheap.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with this fight, even though it's not very well choreographed.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be slow. Colby, how do you feel knowing what was, now that we have the story of what led up right before this fight, which is the prequels, Obi-Wan, cutting off his thing because he had the high ground and then doing his business. How do you feel about this fight when Obi-Wan and Vader get together?
I mean, at this point, Obi-Wan and I mean, Darth Vader, for the most part, I mean, he is like Dylan said, those limbs that he has are limiting. And Obi-Wan's an old man. So even guys back in the day who could have done those big spectacle lightsaber fights, I mean, they're old now. So it would be a slower fight. So I'm also fine with this fight.
Yeah, but I mean, you watch like Rogue One, and the very end of it, you have Vader whipping through people, chucking dudes around, and allegedly, in the Kenobi series, you're going to have a slightly younger Obi-Wan, and he could still do his business, you would think.
And another problem I had with Rogue One was the actor who was in that Darth Vader suit just moved not like Darth Vader does.
That's true.
Like Darth Vader was wrong in that thing, and it threw me out of that whole thing. Like the first, and I even said, I said to my wife, I looked at her and I said, the guy in the Darth Vader costume, was he off? And she's like, yes. Like this, it wasn't just me. That guy in that suit sucked.
Yeah. Excuse me. Is that David Prowse in that suit? I know you're a Prowse fan. What are you guys called? Prowlers? Well, because like this, and also Clockwork Orange, you're like, any Vader, it's not Prowl. No, am I wrong about this? David Prowse.
I don't know.
Okay, so
no idea.
David Prowse was the actor who's inside the Darth Vader suit for the originals. He was not in the Darth Vader suit for Rogue One. David Prowse is also an actor in Clockwork Orange, which I know for a fact is Colby's one of his favorite movies. And the fact that he is not in Rogue One would make Colby very, very angry.
We're not going over this again. I've disavowed Clockwork Orange several times. Just because you weren't here doesn't mean anything. But no, it could have been anybody in that suit, but the guy who they had in that suit, just he moved weird. And there are people, like, there is a rumor online that's Hayden Christensen in there.
No way.
And if that's like who it is, like, bad choice. Hayden Christensen was bad. Like,
I agree. But he's not.
The portrayal of Darth Vader in Rogue One is not consistent with the original trilogy. It's for everybody who's kept up with the Star Wars expanded stuff since Disney took over.
Right.
It's not,
well, then don't make it take place right before A New Hope.
I know.
Yeah, it was also thrown in because everybody's like, no one's gonna like this slow burning Star Wars. They go, there's no lightsabers. Like, let's throw in Vader. Anyway, okay, let's hop back to the movie because we're way out of time here.
We're running.
I know.
I have to go to work in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I apologize. Okay, so the schematics reveal a hidden weakness in a Death Star's thermal exhaust port, which could allow the rebels to trigger a chain reaction planet's main reactor with a precise proton torpedo strike. While Han abandons the rebels after collecting his reward for rescuing Leia, Luke joins the X-Wing starfighter squadron in desperate attack against the approaching Death Star. In the ensuing battle, though, the rebels suffer heavy losses. Vader leads a squadron of TIE fighters against them. Han and Chewbacca unexpectedly return to aid in the Falcon, which is the first on your left, I would assume, and knocks Vader's ship off of course before he can shoot down Luke. Guided by the disembodied voice of Obi-Wan's spirit, Luke uses the Force to aim his torpedoes into the exhaust port, destroying the Death Star moments before it could fire the Rebel base. In a triumphant ceremony at the base, Leia offers Luke and Han, not Chewbacca, medals for their heroism. Okay, so final scenes. What do you got? Give it to me.
The entire sequence from when they take off from Yavin 4 through the end of the movie is fantastic all the way through.
So
100%
good.
agree. 100% agree.
100%.
The score does exactly what it needs to do. The pacing for everything is great. Everybody dying is great.
Mhm.
Darth Vader taking it into his own hands and being like, I'll shoot them down myself.
Mhm.
And then he does.
Mhm.
Great. It's all
The
Yeah.
great.
TIE fighters are the coolest looking spaceship things, period. Like
Yeah.
the TIE fighters rule. I don't know why they made Darth Vader's TIE fighter look worse than regular TIE fighters. I know that they wanted to make it different,
It's like,
but
this is
like
Vader.
those regular ass TIE fighters are, I will not take any other opinions. They're the coolest looking spaceships.
No, I agree.
My favorite bit of expanded universe stuff is that they call the pilots for TIE fighters are referred to in universe as coffin jockeys because there's no life support inside the cockpit. So
Love
they're just flying a coffin through space. I'm like, that's cool.
It is
rules.
cool to
That's
think
really
about. Like,
cool.
if you think that the Empire is based on the Nazis, you would think that the Nazis would build a thing where it is just two huge solar panels and then enough thing for a human to fit inside of.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't give a shit if you come back. We have a billion of these. We literally have a billion of these. Go do something. And
Yep.
they, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, that, like the use of models, the use of special effects, the use of computer effects in this is so brilliant that the company that made this movie decided to make its own company because they did such a great job. Industrial Light and Magic, which was invented for this movie, has done the best things ever for the hit. If you could think of a cool movie with cool effects, most likely ILM is involved in it in some degree, which then turned into Pixar. So those guys are just absolutely amazing. But yeah, the final scene, it is so action-packed and it's a cool dog fight and it's just beautiful with the model work that you cannot tell. And it is so well done. And then Luke finally channels the Force and he gets that missile. It's that tiny little thing that needs to happen. And everything about it is great. And it ends on like a cool note. There's no like really kiss at the end. There's no real romance. It's like Han got his money, then he got his trophy. And Luke got the hero shot and he got his trophy, and everyone is like, cool. Even C3 probably got a new leg. I have no idea, but it wraps up so well that you could expand on it, or it could be its own solo thing.
Yep.
And I apologize to you. Oh, sorry.
It has a real RoboCop ending. It ends and then it's done.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite kind of ending.
Yeah. It's like, this is done. You guys did it. Here's your medal. Roll credits. I'm into it.
And it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I apologize for having you guys on here so long, and I do appreciate you hanging out with me. This movie, like I said in the beginning, it just means more than just a movie, you know, and it's hard to quantify it down. And if I were to see this movie for the first time now, would I like it as much? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, it's so much in a lexicon that I would say it feels ripped off in every degree. But this thing hit me at the right time, and I will say that I will. All right, we're going to just hop into reels because I know that we're all trying to get out of here and do anything. Colby's got to go to work. A graveyard shifted to graveyard, right? Are they all graveyard? Are they all graveyard shifts if you're at the graveyard, or no?
No. We call the other one the mausoleum shifts because they're above ground. But I don't dig the graves for the people. I'm actually a grave robber. But I'm not going to tell you where. Yeah, but I make a decent living doing that.
Yeah, a lot of filthy pockets. A lot of really, Dylan. Come on.
If you did it well, you'd make a killing.
You'd be amazed at what people bury their dead with. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so I'm gonna say that this movie, although I will say this movie is borderline perfect. I'm going to say this movie has a 9.5 reels for me. There are a couple things that obviously you're like, whatever. And there's a couple of tropes in it. And knowing as much as I know about it, obviously I'm going to pinpoint a couple of things and say I don't like that. So I can't give this a perfect score. It is not a Parasite to me, but this movie just means more than Parasite. It's not Spirited Away. This movie means more than Spirited Away. 9.5 out of 10 reels. Dylan Terry, what do you got?
I'm giving us an 8. It's not, 8 out of 10. 4 out of 5. It's great, but I don't know. It's basic. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think part of this might be just the weight of time against it, where it's like, I've seen something like this. I've read something like this. I've seen it done better, but it is. I think everybody benefits from having seen
8
at least
out of
A
10?
New Hope. Yeah.
What 2 points?
Yeah.
Name 2 flaws this thing has for 2 points.
The edits I saw on the special edition that I watched.
When the lightsabers flick on.
7 out of 10? All right.
Whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
And
I guess
Star Wars as a franchise has crippled itself under its own weight.
boo. 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 I can't believe you rated the Snyder Cut Justice League higher than Star Wars.
I did not give the Snyder Cut a 9 out of 10.
You gave a Snyder Cut an 8.5 out of 10, and you can rewatch that video. The link will be below. Colby.
Man, I love this movie. I love it so much. It's so great. I'm giving this also an 8.
You cannot name flaws in this movie.
Here's a flaw.
You did.
I don't like the character of Luke Skywalker. I think he's annoying. And I don't like him. And it takes away from the movie. I love Mark Hamill. I love Mark Hamill as an actor, but I don't like Luke Skywalker. I think he's a wiener. And I don't buy him as a hero.
An accurate term, actually.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
So it gets 2 points knocked off for having the protagonist be a giant wiener.
Yeah, which is odd because you gave Clockwork Orange way more for having a wiener.
I didn't.
Anyway,
I didn't.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to talk bad about your favorite movie. It's not a big deal. We'll get to it in a couple weeks. Okay. So we also have Phil's reel. He gave us 9 out of 10 reels, and that's my boy Phil. Phil finally got one right. But let's see. We have a total of 34.5 out of 40, which gives us roughly an 8.6 out of 10 reels. And I'll take it.
You know what, Zach? Let's round that up to a 9.
Why? How?
Just because the average is, we're going to round it up instead of giving it a 0.65, and then you won't have to cry about it. We're only going to do that though if you never bring up Clockwork Orange again.
So we're gonna average this out to about 7 out of 10 reels because I hate Clockwork Orange that much, and it's gonna keep coming back. Either way, thank you guys very much for watching or listening to this wherever you're at. We do appreciate it. Hit any of those buttons that you're watching it. Subscribe, like. We would love that if you want to share this for whatever reason. If you want to hear how heartfelt I was about Star Wars, that's cool. I know that Michael Colby has a bunch of podcasts. He has Generation Clash, which is an awesome podcast where they go over different generations of music. Him and his child, which is very, very cool, who's a different generation than he is, which is, I think, how children work. I'm not really sure. He also has all those Jack Billings Presents things, such as My Spooky Next Door Neighbor and my haunted bus ride to Walmart.
Close. So close. Although haunted bus ride to Walmart is definitely going to be an episode. So thank you for that idea.
Yeah. Or there's also the crippling handlebar ride to the nearest Come and Go, which is a liquor store where I'm from, which is a stupid name. The Come and Go is really not a good name.
Come and Go is very bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen a Come and Go, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going there."
Yeah, no, they usually have bullet holes, and it starts with the letter K, and that creeps me out. I don't like it. But he also has, you can hear his voice in a lot of things, like Silicon Angels. You also, what else you got going on? Name some of your shows, Colby.
I love This Terrible Game.
Oh,
You
yeah, I
got
forgot
the
about
other ones,
Mhm.
except Jack Billings is my me and my neighbor Michael, and
Yeah.
Haunted Apartment Complex, and my spooky ride to Walmart. And then Generation Clash. And then I'm doing a thing in October where I watch a horror movie every day for the month of October. That is called Quick Cuts, and I will be doing like 5-minute reviews of each movie that I watch every day. And the closer I get to it, the more I think this was a terrible idea, but I'm still going to do it.
That's true. Did you take my suggestions? Serpent in the Rainbow and In the Mouth of Madness. Those are two movies
Oh.
that are terrifying.
In the Mouth
In
of
the Mouth
Madness
of
is
Madness,
fantastic.
I will have each of those. I do have on the schedule one that Dylan recommended called
the Vivitch.
No,
No.
Field in England.
A Field in England.
Oh yeah, dude, that
So
movie's
we'll
creepy.
see how that goes.
It's great.
That's cool. And Dylan Terry, you can hear his voice on amazing things, like Some Nobodies, where Silicon Angels does, as Simon Vanderbland, that crazy kooky fella who has a couple of things that should be coming out in the next year or so. Who knows?
In the next span of
dude,
Is
time.
Simon Vanderbland a
Dude.
kooky fella?
He is one kooky fella.
He's
He
such
lives.
a nerd.
He lives out of a Kia Sorrento, and he
Yeah,
just kind
I
of travels the world. He's being hunted by some salesman from as
Yeah.
a sex robot shop. It's very.
I don't know if I would describe him as kooky though.
He cleans cell phones for a living.
He takes himself very seriously. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, he tried YouTube for a little bit, but yeah,
I love Simon Vanderbland.
what a kooky chap. And Dylan is an amazing writer. Also, you can read some of his words. That magazine you're on, Dylan. What is that called?
Yeah, apostrophes. It's every other month.
Hell yeah. And also you can hear me say the words that Dylan writes on our Create Your Own Pod venture. The first season is called Appeal. Check it out. A bunch of weird stuff. Just type in something about it. Just see all of our weird stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for listening and watching or whatever. And until next time, I've been Zach. You can find me wherever you want. I don't care.
Oh, is that
Yes.
it?
All right, yeah,
Is
sure.
that it?
Cool.
I'm done talking. You can
Cool.
say whatever you want. I don't care. Colby?
But
Roll it.
All right.